If you're sick of tips and tricks and you just want somebody to lay out the path, the steps you need to take in order to go from no song to having written a song, this is the video for you. A couple notes before we begin. This is specifically steps geared towards people who don't know music theory. If you do know music theory, the steps change. I'm gonna have a separate video about the steps you should take if you do know music theory, and if you're continuing to watch this video, which implies that you don't really know music theory, my recommendation is that you do this process while you don't know music theory, but you do take the time to go learn music theory, or at least the basics of music theory, because that is super important and super helpful to songwriting, and it helps make the songwriting process easier, more efficient, and you get better results. So step one, or really even step zero, is do you play an instrument? So if you're somebody, because I know people like this, who actually are interested in becoming a songwriter, but you don't even play any instruments yet, and you're wondering, okay, where do I start? The easy answer here is you should either choose guitar or piano. I'll link a video in the top right corner that explains my breakdown of whether you should choose piano or guitar based on different criteria, because the answer really is different for different people. For some people, piano is going to truly be a better answer, and for other people, guitar is going to truly be a better answer. Now, assuming that you at least are a beginner at some instrument, preferably guitar or piano, what is the first real step, or our second step? And that step is to figure out a chord progression. Look, if you're somebody who's listened to songwriter theory for a while, you're thinking, what? Why are you recommending starting with a chord progression? You always talk about don't start with a chord progression. Yes, but that's specifically my advice when you know some music theory, when you have the ability to work in other orders. But in the case of not knowing music theory, a really solid place to start so that you can write the entirety of the song without really needing to learn music theory is actually starting with the chord progression. You can even go online and literally look up common chord progressions and just copy those and figure out a rhythm you like, and that will work for your purposes. Other options, of course, are you just playing around with chords until you find a progression that you think sounds good. And there's gonna be a danger here that you actually end up having a song that's sort of in multiple keys and feels a little off, but hey, that's sort of the danger you get into if you don't wanna learn music theory. All right, so on to step three. At this point, you've chosen an instrument, or you at least are a beginner at an instrument, and you're playing a chord progression on that instrument. What's next? Well, I would argue at this point what you should do is find a melody over the top of that chord progression that works. The easy way to do this is to simply hum or sing nonsensical words over the top of this chord progression until you find a melody that really works with that chord progression that you really, really like. If you have a decent ear for music, this should be something that you should be able to figure out just by ear without knowing music theory, without having to write a melody in a more traditional sense where you are figuring out note by note what you're doing, but just be able to improvise and figure out something that sounds good to your ears that will sound good to other people's ears too. So on to step four. In my opinion, step four is now taking a step back and trying to figure out what you think this song is about. At this point, you have a chord progression and a melody, which really should be giving you a lot of different emotional information. At this point, it should be easy to tell. Is this kind of a sad song? Is this a happy song? Does this sound like it would be a song about somebody mourning the death of somebody? Or does this sound like it would be a sarcastic song complaining about that coworker that you just can't stand? The tone and feel of your melody and chord progression should really be informing what the song ends up being about. In my opinion, the next thing you should do is start to figure out more chord progressions, or just figure out more melodies to go on top of your chord progression. Because look, at this point you have a chord progression and a melody, right? So that chord progression and melody might be a verse, it might be the chorus, it might be the bridge of your song. So now you have to sort of fill in the gaps and figure out, okay, what I wrote before, was that the chorus? Does it sound like it would be the chorus, or does it sound like it would be a verse? Or does it sound like it would be a bridge? And now we have to write the other parts of the song. And look, it is perfectly viable for you to keep the same chord progression throughout the song. This is very, very common. I don't think you should do it all the time. I think it should be done with caution. But hey, if this is really the first song you're writing, a great place to start is, look, keep that one chord progression and figure out multiple melodies to go over the top, and the different melodies will represent your verses, your chorus, and if you want to have one, a bridge. Overall, my recommendation as far as figuring out what should be the verse melody versus what should be the chorus melody is the chorus melody should probably be higher than the verse melody. Generally speaking, if you think what is the most epic, exciting part of my melody, that should probably be your chorus. So at this point, the only thing left to write is actually the lyrics. Now, To be clear, I don't think that lyric writing should be a single step process. For the sake of this video, we're going to consider it a single step, but in my opinion, the best way to write lyrics, and a way to write lyrics where you have much, much better results, and it's easier to actually write a really good lyric because it's broken down into smaller, more easily manageable steps, is actually by using my 6-step lyric writing checklist. I talk about these 6 steps that I utilize in order to write lyrics, so you're not putting too much pressure staring at a blank page thinking, I need to write a great lyric. Like this just in. Great poets, great novel writers, right? The first draft is not what you read, right? If you're a big fan of, say, Brandon Sanderson and you picked up Mistborn and you're like, wow, this is incredible that he wrote this on a first try. He didn't, right? He probably edited each chapter several times, maybe 20 times. I don't really know. But the reality is that writing is editing. So in this guide, I actually break down the 6 steps I think anybody can take to go from a basic lyric idea all the way to lyrics that you can be really, really proud of. So be sure to check that out. Link in the description. So hopefully this video was helpful to you. If it was, be sure to drop a like. It helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. And let me know in the comments below. Are you somebody who is curious about learning songwriting? Are you somebody who knows an instrument already and wants to start to add writing to your repertoire of things you can do? Or are you somebody who's just sort of curious? Let me know what stage you are at in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will talk to you in the next video.